This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live, where for once Warlord is right. We are on early. Check 1 2, check check. I might be a little low. Check check. Welcome. We are coming on a few minutes early because right now the House of Representatives is voting to expel George Santos. So hold on one sec. Go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and take the House. The vote just wrapped up. I don't think it's gonna pass. So it needs 2/3 of the House in order to pass. The yeas don't even have it.
On this vote.
This is Cat Kamnick.
The yeas are 179, the nays are 213, with 19 recorded as present. 2/3 not voting in the affirmative. The resolution is not adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Soup! Good evening. We lost audio there. I was trying to adjust the audio levels. I don't think that George Santos has been expelled. I do believe I believe he's staying in the House, DJ Dub. It had some Republican support, about 24 Republicans voting with the Democrats. I don't even think all the Democrats voted for it. Wow.
The House will be in order. For what purposes does the gentleman from Maine seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House.
Without objection. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Last Wednesday night, a terrible tragedy befell my hometown of Lewiston. The following is a reading from the daily devotional.
Gentleman will suspend.
What the fuck is going on?
Conversations off the floor. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The following is a reading from the daily devotional, Streams in the Desert, from October 25. Hear Thur to have ye asked nothing in my name,
I don't know what's going on with my audio, why this is so low.
that your joy may be full. John 16:24. During the Civil War, a man had an only son who enlisted in the armies of the Union. The father was a banker, and although he consented to his son's going, it seemed as if it would break his heart to let him go. He became deeply interested in the soldier boys, and whenever he saw a uniform,
Soldier
his heart
boys.
went out as he thought of his own dear boy. He spent his time, neglected his business, gave his money to caring for the soldiers who came home invalid. His friends remonstrated with him, saying he had no right to neglect his business and spend so much time upon the soldiers. So he fully decided to give it all up. After he had come to this decision, there stepped into his bank one day a private soldier and
There, I think I finally was able to fix the audio.
showed in his face and hands the marks of the hospital. The
Warlord.
poor fellow was fumbling in his pocket to get something or other when the banker saw him and, perceiving his purpose, said to him, "My dear fellow, I cannot do anything for you today. I'm extremely busy. You will have to go to your headquarters."
Voted overwhelmingly
Look
to
after
reject a resolution to
Still,
expel George
Poor
Santos.
convalescent stood,
You guys want to hear him beg for his job?
said to him,
I have that. That was totally what we were leading off with tonight. I thought the vote was going to take place just a little bit later. I had to rush on. Santos defended himself earlier today in a floor speech. Let's hear from Representative George Santos.
New York, Mr. Santos is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, efforts taken by other members in this body to act as judge, jury, and executioner are unconscionable and reckless to our Republican system of government and to the integrity of this body. I stand today to continue to prove my innocence of these allegations and
I'm sorry, but I like the guy now.
I'd like to say I understand the point of view of my colleagues, but I don't. One can't say that they are pro-Constitution and at the same time act as judge, jury, and executioner. Where is the consistency, Mr. Speaker? The actions taken within this body are delicate, and consistency is essential. And now is not the time.
This lying sack of shit talking about consistency.
Consider this. The last time a member of Congress was expelled was in 2002, following a criminal conviction. In fact, both expulsions in the last 2 centuries took place after the defendants had been convicted. To my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I'd like to remind you that many of you are supporting another member of Congress who is under investigation and is the second time he. And even one of you, and even one who recently pleaded guilty to a crime, rather than calling for their resignation, here we are. I must warn my colleagues that voting for expulsion at this point would circumvent the judicial system's right to due process that I'm entitled to, and desanctify the law.
Congress ain't got shit to do with your due process.
Presumed innocent until proven guilty. It is unconscionable to think that this body, who is at war with the DOJ over their politically motivated practices, would blindly accept their accusation against a member of another branch of government. We were each elected to Congress because our constituents supported our pledge to uphold the Constitution, protect their liberties, and put their needs first.
Put their foot up your ass,
we
son.
swore with our palms to the Bible to do so. This expulsion,
this man needs a titty slap.
Politically motivated by some members within this body. They believe that by attempting to expel me, they will garner political points,
you got some nice titties,
fundraising, and receive congratulations from those who do not approve of my voting record. During this Congress, we have seen the world set aflame, our allies attacked, recession looming, crime out of control, an unprecedented border crisis, and the diminishment of American power, prestige, and respect at home and around the globe. We should focus on solving these pressing issues that plague our nation and that affect our citizens every single day. Instead, we are prioritizing petty politics and undermining the integrity of our system of government, all for political cheap gains. Pettifog all you want.
But what?
But you can never say I am not committed to serving my constituents of NY3. I have strived.
Did you say pedophile all you want?
And institutional acumen to represent and legislate for my people back home. Since I took office, over 1,100 cases.
If you are just joining us, this is from earlier today. The House just voted not to expel George Santos from his seat in Congress. Still a congressman. Representative Anthony DeVolder.
Cases of constituent works have been solved. Key relationships with stakeholders in the district have been built, and a fresh voice of common sense and servant leadership has returned to New York. My office has no string attached to political parties and apparatuses back home, so I'm free to represent them openly here without the overlords of the GOP over my head in New York and Nassau County. My office has done instrumental work regarding passports, collaborating with state and local agencies, working with the Department of State throughout this ongoing Israel crisis for constituents.
Meat cakes.
And
he's still there because the Republicans voted to keep him.
In addition,
and some Democrats voted to keep him.
Staff district offices serving the constituents of New York's 3rd District, participating in the Service Academy nominations for dozens of exceptional candidates from Long Island and northeastern Queens, and being involved in the Congressional Art Competition. One of my highest honors of being in Congress was presenting a Purple Heart Medal to a World War I hero surviving family member after years of them attempting to garner this from my predecessor. I will never cease to honor those who have defended this republic and our homeland. From my involvement in assisting residents of New York 3 being held hostage by Hamas terrorists to my contributions in the effort to close the migrant shelter at the Creedmoor facility in Belrose, being a champion for the Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, and my resolve to clamp down on China's growing influence against American interests, there is one thing consistent and unwavering, and that is the dedication to self-service.
Aren't you guys glad that Congress is back in session?
And day out on behalf of them and to represent their interests.
Had to get back to doing the people's business.
I am proud to have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, in the 118th Congress. And the most conservative voting record in New York's delegation. I will never apologizing for voting in line with conservative principles and my district.
I just want to point out he hasn't even been in Congress a year yet. He's talking about how great his fucking voting record is.
Let us remember, our commitment to justice ensures that the presumption of innocence is upheld in all cases. I request is that my evaluation be based on the work I do in this body. And you granted me a reprieve earlier this year on the advice of former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. I'm asking the chamber to please uphold those same principles today. I hope that my colleagues come to their senses and recognize that perilous consequences of a trial by media is damaging. The loss of the presumption of innocence establishes a dangerous precedent that threatens the very foundation of our legal system, and we risk losing the trust that the American people have placed in us by passing judgment without due process. If we work together, we can protect the integrity of our system and the rights of all citizens. I'm fighting tooth and nail to clear my name in front of the entire world, Mr. Speaker. It hasn't been easy, but I'm fighting by God's grace. On a final note, as we wear these pins and stand within these chambers as elected members of Congress, we cannot speak out of both sides of our mouth, promising to uphold the principles of the Constitution while simultaneously trampling on the principles that underpin our fundamental rights granted by the Constitution is hypocrisy. I hope that the House will understand the scope of this vote and have the courage to do what is right, not what is politically expedient. I stand firmly in my innocence and my passion to represent the people of New York's 3rd District as the voters would have, if the voters would continue to have me.
No, you're going to lose re-election.
For it is their responsibility.
You say that pretty confidently.
Their responsibility alone to elect or remove me from Congress. Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to make my case directly to you, sir. For God, for country, for liberty. God bless the United States of America. I reserve.
This gentleman.
Come on, man.
Oh, man. Representative Mike Lawler, a Republican, let Santos have it. Once again, the House just voted. It failed. 213 members of Congress, about half of the Democrats. Less than half of the Democrats voted with most of the Republicans. Well, thank you, Chainsaw. Thank you. Help boost that algorithm. Representative Mike Lawler went off. Apparently, absolutely explodes is what Forbes titled this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is a Republican.
I will say, listening to the sanctimoniousness of my colleague from New York is quite priceless. Talking about
Your sanctimoniousness.
This is a gentleman who couldn't even condemn the New York City DSA in an op-ed, and in fact was more upset that I introduced a resolution condemning them than the actions of those individuals within the New York City DSA that supported the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. And that is precisely because of politics, because his district is one of the most progressive districts in America. He couldn't muster the courage to even condemn the New York City DSA. So
he didn't condemn.
Over there with your smug look. Mr. Speaker, nobody wants to be in a situation where they are expelling a member of Congress. It is serious.
Super serial.
And it comes with weight and gravity because that individual was elected by their constituents to serve and to represent their district. You don't expel a member for being a jerk. You don't expel a member for something they said.
World might be a better place if you did,
You expel
though.
a member for their conduct. The conduct of Mr. Santos has been embarrassing and unbecoming and unfit for public office.
But he ain't
Lying
wrong.
about your background, lying about your life experiences, making up events that didn't occur in an effort to
A lot of them, too.
voters into believing that you are the right person to represent them is wrong. Fundamentally wrong. It's why all of us called for Mr. Santos to resign when this information came to light. The resolution that was brought about in May
Condemn.
was referred to ethics for two reasons. Number one, there were not 2/3 of the vote to expel. And number two, you wanted to allow for a process to get more information that members could hang their hat on in a vote. That process is ongoing. We all would have liked to have seen it resolved more expeditiously than it has been. But given
Because that's what Congress
the amount
does.
of lies,
Things expeditiously.
it has taken time. What has changed since May is that you have a guilty plea by the treasurer who was involved in this scam, who has laid out precisely what happened. And you have a superseding indictment,
Richard, good evening.
13 additional felony charges, outlining
I'm sorry.
precisely
I'm
what
sorry.
happened.
This is not the best way to enjoy okra and chicken nuggies. I agree.
And yes, Mr. Santos.
Oh, Richard condemns the fraud. Unfortunately, not enough people in the House of Representatives agree. George Santos not expelled.
Will get his day in court. But for the purposes
But Congress
of this
has nothing to
body,
do
we
with
now
fucking
have more
court.
than enough information from a court of law with the guilty plea of his treasurer to expel him from Congress. When you can sit with a straight face and say that you attended an institution like Baruch College or that you were a volleyball superstar and recite this on a nationally syndicated radio show, when you can make up the fact that your mother
Died in
was in
9/11.
the Twin Towers on September 11th with not even an ounce of shame or remorse, you're unfit to serve.
His family fled both
From
the Soviets and the
Remember
Nazis.
That day, precisely. I was in my 5th day of freshman year of high school. The number
Fucker's
of my
younger than me.
classmates whose parents were in the building, whose parents didn't come home. The number of first responders in each of our districts who still to today are dying from 9/11 related illnesses. This is not something you joke about, you lie about.
He's indignant.
It is unfit. So, we as members of this body,
If he is unfit, you can't acquit.
despite the political nonsense that just came out of my colleague's mouth from New York, we as members of this body have tried to allow for a process to take place. Allow for a process in which the members of this body can be confident that Mr. Santos should be expelled from Congress. That process has been allowed to play out.
I don't know. I like
Both
him.
in the
I'm glad
Ethics
he's
Committee
staying.
And here today.
He makes this dude mad.
Based on the conviction
So I'm
and
on his
guilty
side.
of his treasurer and the admission of the fraud.
If you put an eye patch on this dude, he'd look an awful lot like Dan Crenshaw. I'd piss in his fucking eye pussy. Listen up, son. Mike Lawler.
That was perpetrated upon donors, upon the NRCC, upon former Speaker McCarthy's chief of staff. That is more than sufficient evidence and information
Yeah, I forgot about
to
that.
expel Mr. Santos from Congress. There is not enough time to go through the litany of lies that Mr. Santos has engaged in during his campaign and during his time in Congress, including just recently a claim that his 5-year-old niece was kidnapped by Chinese Communist Party spies.
Yeah, we covered that the other day.
So all of us take seriously the oath that we took. All of us want to uphold the integrity of this institution. We are willing to take on a member of our party, not for political gain, not because we think this is fun, but because it's right. And I would ask my colleague from New York, name me one time you ever stood up to your party. You couldn't even muster the courage to denounce the New York City DSA. So, we will do what's right.
What? Does he think George Santos is a Democrat?
We have brought this resolution forward, and I encourage all of my colleagues to vote in favor of Mr. Santos' expulsion.
Or was he talking about somebody else
Speaker, I
completely
reserve.
unrelated?
Gentlemen reserves, members are reminded.
Because what do we... he didn't condemn the DSA. What? Because I would say if you're trying to argue that he didn't stand up to his party, not condemning the DSA would probably be standing up to the Republican Party. Don't you think? But like, there's been some weird bedfellows on the Hill today. I mean, I'm totally down with this one. The Republicans helped torpedo a resolution to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib earlier today over her criticism of Israel. Those lawmakers voted on Wednesday to torpedo a resolution censuring Representative Rashida Tlaib of Michigan for her harsh criticisms of Israel in the wake of Hamas's deadly attacks last month. The effort required 23 Republicans, joined by all Democrats, to vote in favor of a procedural motion that blocked the disciplinary resolution from reaching the floor. The final tally was 222 to 186. The vote was something of a surprise. Tlaib, a staunch liberal who's been harshly critical of Israel, has few fans in the GOP when it comes to Middle Eastern politics. They did not condemn her. Yay.
Be condemned.
It's unclear why several Republicans came to her rescue during Wednesday's vote. The censure resolution, sponsored by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, had accused Tlaib of being leading an insurrection for her participation in an anti-war protest last month at the Capitol, organized by Jewish groups, which featured scores of arrests. Pro-Israeli Democrats who might have been inclined to censure Tlaib's comments had hammered Greene for her inaccurate characterization of a peace protest, albeit a rowdy one, and for sensationalizing Tlaib's role in orchestrating it. They were also leery that Greene's insurrectionist language had trivialized the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of former president. Oh, it's because Greene wrote it, and it's just so egregious they couldn't vote for it. Wednesday's vote came as the escalating violence in the Middle East has highlighted the deep rift among Democrats when it comes to Israel, pitting liberal pro-Palestinian lawmakers like Tlaib, who have accused Tel Aviv of war crimes in its response to the Hamas attacks, against staunch Israel allies who fear the criticisms of a close U.S. ally will only empower Hamas and invite anti-Semitism. That schism is expected to take center stage later this week when the House votes on a GOP-crafted $14.3 billion in Israel aid package that includes cuts to IRS funding to pay for the package. We're going to come back to Israel here in just a little bit. I wanted to keep it on the House of Representatives, where back to business as usual. So when we last left the House, before they yeeted their speaker several weeks back, they were making claims about Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. So we're picking up right where we left off. Here's Representative James Comer saying he has evidence that Joe Biden received $40,000 in Chinese money. Now, I'm just now seeing the number. I'm just now seeing the story. Not a pre-watch Andy here. $40,000. I've put this in perspective many times. The claim of $40,000 for a bribe to the president. That's absurd. So we were saying like a fifth. We were saying like a fifth of $3 million was what Hunter had promised Joe, which is chump change. A former president would get that for a book deal easily. $40,000? Are you fucking shitting me? Joe Biden can charge that for a speaking engagement. Like, this is, even the claims, if we take them at face value, are fucking laughable. Holy shit. $40,000, that's Sarah Huckabee Sanders spent half of that on a fucking lectern. That's a whole big thing. I don't think I've covered that whole ordeal. We've covered part of that. I don't think we've covered the whole ordeal. We're gonna have to go back into that. She is in some hot water over a lectern that she paid almost $20,000 for, but like, she don't have a $20,000 lectern, right? Like, she was funneling money to one of her friends. $20,000 is the least amount of money. Like at $20,000 you have to report it. So at 19, saying the lectern was worth 19, they don't have to like disclose it on financial disclosures. But a reporter got their hands on the invoice through a Freedom of Information Act. But $40,000, that's absurd. That's laughable. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Biden told the American people that his son didn't make any money in China?
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China?
Well, not only did he lie about his son Hunter making money in China, but it also turns out that $40,000 in laundered China money landed in Joe Biden's bank account in the form of a personal check. and the Oversight Committee has it. Here's how Joe Biden benefited from his family's shady deal with CEFC, a Chinese Communist Party-linked company. It all began with a shakedown in the summer.
Jim Comer is worth an estimated $5.5 million. And that's in 2018. Open Secrets has him at $5.5 million in 2018.
Summer of 2017, when Hunter Biden sent a message to his CEFC associate demanding a $10 million capital payment. As Hunter Biden extorted this associate, Hunter claimed he was sitting with his father and that the Biden network would turn on his associate if he didn't pony up the money. The extortion scheme worked. Days later, $5 million flowed in from a Chinese affiliate of CEFC. Over the following 3 weeks, Biden family members made a series of complicated financial transactions to hide the source of the China money. Here's how that happened.
The China money.
Northern International Capital, a Chinese company associated with CEFC, wired $5 million to Hudson West 3, a joint venture established by Hunter Biden and a CEFC associate. Then Hudson West 3 sent $400,000 to an entity owned and controlled by Hunter Biden. Next, Hunter Biden wired $150,000 to Lionhall Group, a company owned by James and Sarah Biden. Sarah Biden then withdrew $50,000 in cash from Lionhall Group. Later the same day, she deposited it into her and James Biden's personal checking account. A few days later, Sarah Biden cut a check to Joe Biden for $40,000. The memo line of the check said loan repayment. Like the payment to Joe from AmeriCorps funds, it's certainly plausible that this payment where James and Sarah used funds from China was indeed a loan payment to Joe. But even if this $40,000 check was a loan repayment from James Biden, it still shows how Joe benefited from his family cashing in on his name, with money from China no less, without his family peddling his name and his son.
So hold on. So the accusation at face value is that sometime in the past, Joe Biden loaned his sister-in-law $40,000. Maybe a little less, maybe she paid it back with interest, who knows? But that at some point in time, some business dealing might have trickled down to $50,000 to her, and then she paid $40,000 to Joe, and Joe would have no idea where this money came from. And it may or may not have been something legitimate that Hunter had going on with China. Like, other than just peddling influence, like trading on his dad's name, but that's something all fucking rich people do.
And threatening a CEFC associate with consequences that he said Joe Biden knew about, James wouldn't have had the money to write the $40,000 check to his brother Joe. It's also worth remembering that Biden family efforts to secure millions from this Chinese company.
This is the best you could do?
Biden was still vice president. In taking funds sourced to a CCP-linked company that wanted to advance China's interests, Joe Biden exposed himself to future blackmail and put America's interests behind his own desire for money. The House Oversight Committee will continue to follow the money and hold President Biden accountable for his corruption.
His desire for money, when if we take your claim at face value, he loaned money to his sister-in-law, and he eventually got paid back. But this establishes some lust for money. Holy shit! These people are insane. Speaking of insane, Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently had a copy of the check.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here to inform the House of Representatives that the Oversight Committee has indeed brought forward the receipts in our impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden. Through our investigation, we have uncovered a check to Joe Biden for $200,000 This comes from foreign funds from a country in the Middle East through a struggling company, and you can see the check is directly made to Joe Biden. This is what money laundering looks like. We've also uncovered and released today another check to Joseph R. Biden for $40,000. This $40,000 is a check written to him by his brother and sister-in-law, Sarah and James Biden. And this check comes from funds directly through money laundering through the CCP. No president of the United States, no vice president, no office holder should ever engage in money laundering, receiving money, selling out their office, selling out their power.
The gentlewoman's time is expired.
And getting paid from foreign countries.
The gentlewoman's time is expired.
Inquiry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Members are reminded.
I don't want to have to take up for Joe Biden, but like those claims are absurd. Keeping it in the House, this one came as a shock to me. GOP Representative Ken Buck, one of the stalwarts of the Freedom Cock, not be seeking re-election.
Hi, this is Congressman Ken Buck. After careful consideration and much prayer, I have decided not to seek a sixth term in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Pretty big announcement. Huge, some would say, from Republican Congressman Ken Buck announcing he will not seek re-election for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. And that's why we need Kelly Maher to come in and talk to us about it as the Republican political analyst for us. First of all, what does this mean for the Colorado Republican Party?
You know, so this is really a pretty big deal. It's an open seat for the Colorado Republican Party. And ultimately, Republicans have so little power in the state right now, and frankly, so few seats that I think we're going to see a
Flash, good evening.
Jumping into this race. People who you wouldn't classically see run for Congress because they're going to see this as like their one shot ever to make their way. And it's going to be like 50 people trying to play musical chairs with only 3 chairs. And this, it's going to be a free-for-all because everybody sees this as like their one chance to make it to Congress, versus on the other side, there's a lot more opportunity for growth.
So it's like running for mayor, like 47 names. You have no idea.
That's how it started, yeah. Will it define Colorado's Republican Party in some ways right now? Because it seems like we've just going through this in Congress, trying to find out where the Republican center is. Will this define Colorado's Republican Party a bit as well?
So it's been really fascinating to watch the Republican Party over the last few years. Under Dave Williams, who is the new chairman of the Republican Party, we've seen a lot of, attacks within the tent, things that you wouldn't have seen.
Never used to happen.
Never would have seen before. And so I think that the Republican Party in such a minority is in the middle of a real existential crisis. So it'll be fascinating to see who's going to get into this race and who is going to prevail, because this is really a question of game theory right now. Until the process is entirely solidified, the GOP right now is in fact suing Secretary of State Jenna Griswold in order to try to strip unaffiliated voters back off of the primary voting system.
And see, this is interesting because I think that the Democrats are going to pick up Boebert's seat in Colorado. This makes it a hell of a lot more likely that they could pick up this seat in Colorado. What I believe she said there were 3 Republican seats. The Democrats might be able to pull a clean sweep. I am almost certain Boebert's going to lose, and that's the reddest district in Colorado. And the reason I believe that is because she almost lost last time. It's the same guy running. He was an unknown last time. This time he knows what he's doing. He has name recognition, and Boebert is even less popular. So I think she loses that seat next year. And a ruby red district in Colorado flips to the Democrats.
Also, then we saw rule change attempts to try to really constrict who can get that Republican nomination. That's going to be the question.
It'll play out in real life now.
It will play out in real life. And, I've heard some big names already. I've heard Representative Mike Lynch is in leadership. He's already being talked about. Unclear whether or not if he runs, he'll be able to keep that leadership spot, because this is really a primary that should end up in June. I've heard George Brockler. I'm sure that Frank McNulty is going to be getting the call.
Oh, no, not Frank McNulty.
Has won that district. He's a CU regent. I've heard Heidi Ganal. I've heard, names that we
know all of those.
Right.
But who would matter? Like, someone is going to throw
your news people
behind him, and the heaviest weight in the Republican Party nationally is still Donald Trump. If Donald Trump supports a candidate, is that going to end up being the candidate in that district?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, Tom, because we saw Donald Trump supporting Scott Tipton against Lauren Boebert, and she still got the nomination. So that was really a question of tone versus the endorsement. I think the endorsement that they're really looking for is Ken Bucks, because he won the district. He has some really strong things to say, and who is going to listen to the speech that he gave today? Because he really vivisected the state of the Colorado Republican Party. I am old enough to remember when he ran as a Tea Party candidate to the right of Jane Norton, and he was considered one of the most conservative guys in Colorado. And now he is running, or now he's basically stepping back and saying, this is a banana circus. I don't want anything to do with it.
Do you think he moved, or do you think it all moved?
A banana circus.
So this is the question, right? This is the Overton window question. And in Colorado, with the Republican Party right now, it feels like an Overton kaleidoscope, not like a window, right? It's so hard to really back it down.
So last question, real short.
Yeah.
What does Ken Buck do now? Is he headed for the glamorous life of television?
I mean, he's been doing a lot of TV hits.
I don't know if I like her as a political commentator, but I would like to take her out for a drink. I would have a very interesting conversation with her. Overton kaleidoscope.
Look at him, so we'll see if he sticks with it.
Oh.
And that's when he could really have a say in this race.
A broader say.
Well,
yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Kelly, it's always good to see you.
We always need more time with you.
I know, it's so much fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she might have already been out for a drink before she did that TV hit. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I am a staunch supporter of a non-sober lifestyle. Speaking of which, how much cocaine did Don Jr. do this morning before he testified?
Donald Trump Jr. took the witness stand in the civil fraud trial against his father's business empire. He told a Manhattan court that he had little to do with financial practices that are at the heart of the case. His father, former U.S. President Donald Trump, and his family businesses are accused of inflating asset values to dupe lenders and insurers. Donald Jr., an executive vice president at the Trump Organization and a co-defendant in the case, is the first of Trump's adult children to testify, followed by Eric and Ivanka Trump. Their father is set to testify on Monday. Donald Jr. said he and Eric largely took over management of the company when their father assumed the presidency in 2017. His testimony could continue into Thursday and be another flashpoint in a trial punctuated by sharp exchanges between lawyers and witnesses and heated arguments over the admissibility of evidence. The lawsuit by Democratic New York Attorney General Letitia James accuses Trump, his two adult sons, and a handful of their family businesses of inflating their assets by billions of dollars to secure better loan terms. Trump has denied wrongdoing and has repeatedly accused James and the judge of political bias. James is seeking at least $250 million in fines, a permanent ban against Trump and his two adult sons from running businesses in New York, and a 5-year commercial real estate ban against Trump and the Trump Organization.
I think it all seems pretty reasonable. They actually got... Hello, clinically. Oh, if you're just joining us, the vote to expel George Santos took place just a little bit ago. George Santos, still a member of Congress, overwhelmingly voted to keep his ass in the House. Don Jr. gave his comments while in court earlier today. During the brief period of time that the press can come in, take pictures.
worn makeup.
Are you not wearing makeup? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Forehead over there should probably use a little foundation, keep it from shining so much.
Okay, thank you.
A good shot of the judge. He's a rowdy judge.
Let's go, folks.
District Attorney Letitia James looking confident.
How's it going so far?
Don Jr.'s a dumb motherfucker, isn't he? Oh, goddamn. It would be funny if, like, his father could be president again. Then again, there are several cases across the country trying to bar Trump from even being on the ballot. Trump's lawyers in Colorado filed a motion for a directed verdict that was denied by the judge.
Oh, this one.
This one. You may be seated. Is that better? So turning to the motion for a directed verdict. A motion for directed verdict may be granted only on the evidence considered in the light most favorable to the opposing party, compels a conclusion that reasonable persons could not disagree as to the evidence or to the inferences which could be drawn from the evidence, and when no evidence has been presented, that the state could sustain a verdict against the moving party. The court must consider the evidence and the reasonable inferences from the evidence in the most favorable way to the non-moving party. Here, in this case, I tend
She's got the COVID.
Check is correct that it would be inappropriate to grant a Rule 50 motion given the expedited proceedings. However, even if it was appropriate, I would deny because the motion brings up significant legal issues, many of which have never been decided by any court. For instance, essentially one of President Trump's arguments is that the First Amendment displaces the 14th Amendment, or at the very least, the court needs to interpret the 14th Amendment with a First Amendment overlay. The petition should apply the 14th Amendment on its face in that it is not subject to or somehow a lesser amendment than the First Amendment. There's clearly a conflict. On the one hand, you have people in the 1800s being disqualified for writing a letter to the editor. Clearly speech. On the other hand, you have a body of law holding the standards for finding incitement are very high, and the speech needs to be very specific. The court is not prepared today to reconcile those two bodies of law. Similarly, on the one hand, Intervenor Trump argues the court cannot look at statements that are in a glacial pace to find incitement. However, the petitioners argue that I can look at those statements for context and to infer intent, and a plan for incitement they contend was caused by the January 6th speech. Trump argues that the January 6th speech does not meet the standard of incitement, but then I have Professor Simi stating that based on the relationship that was built, the words were coded. Petitioners argue in inciting cases that the courts will look at the coded language when determining incitement. To be clear, I'm not deciding any of these issues. I'm denying the motion for directed verdict because in order to grant the motion for directed verdict, I would have to decide many legal issues that I am simply not prepared to decide today. Further, I think I will be better informed to decide the legal issues when I have more of a factual context, which I expect I will have after the presentation of intervener's case. So I will address the First Amendment issues brought up in your motion for directed verdict when I make my final findings of facts, conclusions of law, and all the other legal arguments that I need to decide between now and then.
You gotta make your arguments to me before I can decide something like that. That's what she said. Makes sense. What doesn't make sense is why Dr. Phil is giving his thoughts on the state of Israel. This is from TBN, the Trinity Broadcasting Network. So it's bound to be fucking horrible. I'm gonna go ahead and warn you on that. I don't know what the course of action is in Colorado, what the legal procedure is. I don't know that a jury would make the decision on whether he could be on the ballot or not. And so we're gonna watch TBN, the Trinity Broadcasting Network. Dr. Phil is giving his thoughts on Israel.
The unconscionable attack on Israeli civilians by Hamas gunmen on October 7 was marked by murder, rape, torture, and kidnapping. On the bloodiest day in the country's 75-year history, an estimated 13...
This is some propaganda.
Over 3,300 wounded and approximately 150 Israelis were taken hostage. Kars Ray, a fellow with the Jewish Leadership Project, stated, "This is the greatest loss of Jewish life in a single day since the Holocaust." The Hamas invaders were not soldiers.
That's true.
They were assassins.
Pumpkin Spice, good evening.
Calls for the ultimate annihilation of all Israeli Jews, followed by the annihilation of Jews around the world. Sound familiar? Sadly, some people, including some in America, actually celebrated the slaughter and blamed those being murdered, raped, and kidnapped. Many of America's most respected elite universities.
I would like to point out that was not celebrating the slaughter. Those were all in favor of freeing Palestine and against Israel's atrocities.
These are not only indulging but actually endorsing sanctioned student organizations holding celebrations for the murders. Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, UCLA, and Stanford are high-profile examples that should raise concern, if not outrage. These student organizations' reactions to the Hamas attack...
Oh my God! Richard, you are entirely correct. The IDF has been, they've been trying to, dunk on people and be sassy on Twitter and shit. This is way better propaganda. This is from Christians. This is from the Christian Broadcasting Company, TBN.
A disturbing degree of ivy-covered intellectual rot. Americans nationwide have been appalled and shocked. The leadership of these supposedly highly sophisticated schools are so busy virtue...
Damn, Dr. Phil!
...students who think that words are violence, but violence, horrific, inhumane violence, is social justice. That they have forgotten it is their job to teach their students to think and to test reality. Instead of training tomorrow's leaders, they are profoundly demagnetizing our culture's moral compass among the college population. Senator Cory Booker commented recently that there was a time we took pride in calling out bad behavior.
Is Dr. Phil getting into politics?
Calling evil, evil, and hatred, hatred. Martin Luther King Jr. said we suffer not just from the vitriol and violence of our enemies, but from the appalling silence and inaction of the good people. I'm no expert in geopolitics, but
No, you're not.
To immediately denounce the actions of Hamas as utterly sick, twisted, disgusting, and inexcusable.
He condemned.
Staying fully in my lane of analyzing human behavior, I will amplify some things I know for sure. I know for sure the atrocities and ensuing celebrations committed by Hamas are inexcusable and unjustifiable. These are not the acts of honorable soldiers, freedom fighters, or militants. From a psychological standpoint, I can't help but wonder what these assassins say to themselves alone in the middle of the night after murdering a terrified and defenseless little baby boy or girl.
Well, I could give you a few of the quotes, but I kind of don't want to say them on the air. I don't want to be like, I've said some things before. Like I want to avoid doing that. I want to stay in the good graces of big tech.
Have they bothered to think about how many of their own children they have destined to be sacrificed in the retaliation that is certain to follow?
Wow!
Retaliation Hamas
come right out and saying it
on the Gazans, Palestinians. I know for sure that allowing the university-sanctioned organizations to celebrate the sadistic acts of terror without consequence confirms these enlightened woke universities are failing miserably in shaping, educating, maturing the minds of those students. It is the educator's job to teach critical thinking that will lead to rational response, a skill set in short supply in today's world. Perhaps such training on how to think would have led these students and their organizations to realize they are not actually supporting Palestinians and Gazans when they are supporting Hamas. Hamas are not even Palestinians.
They're not holding up Hamas flags, motherfucker. Those are Palestinian flags. I hate to inform you.
You cannot negotiate with people whose only acceptable outcome
Mr. Critical Thinker.
Your entire race. Seriously, have some of these people gotten together and collectively lost their minds? We know right from wrong, and we must stand up for what we believe and know is right. We must call out these institutions. How is any of this acceptable to anyone? How is it not recognized as incredibly racist? How do elite educators not recognize this is a huge teachable moment in these students' journey? The heads of these schools...
You're wrong, you dipshit, that's why.
...celebrate racism, anti-Semitism, baby killing, and murdering.
Wow.
What they are doing instead is distancing themselves in hopes it blows over. Israel is our friend and ally. They don't need us to just be their friend in good times. They need us to be their friend in bad times, to be their friend when it is easier not to be. Good friends.
The amount of propaganda coming out
when
is
everyone
just
else
overwhelming.
Going out. This is a really great time to show Israel and the world who we are.
God damn. That makes me want to punch babies. God, I better not say that. Okay, Dr. Phil, I counter your blowing Israel and the Netanyahu government with the reality of what's going on the ground. The IDF is confirming they have, for the second time in as many days, struck a refugee camp in Gaza.
New pictures out of Gaza showing the devastating damage at the Jabalia refugee camp as the Hamas-controlled health ministry there claiming a second Israeli airstrike in the last 2 days. The IDF says they are not aware of the strike but are looking into reports. This comes as the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund confirms
This IDF confirms
workers are now safe in Egypt after an excruciating wait at the Rafah border crossing in Gaza. The families of Emily Callahan, Barbara Zind, Ramona Akamura, Allison Greco, and Samantha Hunt all breathing a sigh of relief as they are one step closer to coming home. An additional 335 dual nationals and foreigners have also crossed the border, along with 17 ambulances carrying at least 76 injured Gazans. Inez de la Quintera joins me now from Jerusalem with more. So, Inez, we spoke yesterday right after that first strike on the Jabalia refugee camp. Now we're hearing reports of a second one. What can you confirm?
Hey, Carrie. Yeah, so as of just a few moments ago, actually, we did get confirmation from the IDF that they did strike the Jabalia refugee camp a second time today. So they say earlier today, based on precise intelligence, IDF fighter jets struck a Hamas command and control complex in Jabalia. We can confirm that Hamas terrorists were eliminated in the strike. They then go on to talk about how they've been urging Gazans to flee northern Gaza and head south. That's similar to what we heard yesterday in their statement. They don't really acknowledge the civilian casualties here, but reiterate their position and their call for civilians to head south. So this is the second strike on the Jabalia refugee camp in less than 24 hours. We saw that massive.
They're saying fish in a barrel. You have 24 hours to leave the barrel before we start shooting into the barrel. See, we're the good guys.
Blast yesterday, those horrific images, the crater that was left there, and the chaos that ensued, people rushing to the scene, trying to dig through the rubble to get to survivors. We know the Hamas-run health ministry said that at least 52 people were killed in that strike. It's unclear how many people may have been killed in this strike, but the Hamas-run health ministry said that it could be tens of people injured or wounded in that strike. So real concerns for the civilian death toll there. And again, the IDF insisting that they are going after terrorists here. The first strike, they say they took out a top Hamas commander who they say was one of the masterminds behind the October 7th terror attack.
But they won't tell us who he was or give us any kind of confirmation.
Across the border, including the 5 U.S.
Violet, good evening.
Yeah, so great news there. The fact that the
I hope that didn't sound like I was yelling at you. Look. Violet, what's up? Sorry. Little on edge because of this whole shit.
A border crossing is once again open to people. This is the first time it's been open to people.
Tag some hummus.
October
I
7th.
condemn the hummus.
Those who have been critically wounded, and we understand that 76 critically injured patients were able to cross out of Gaza into Egypt. There were ambulances there waiting for them. Field hospitals are also being set up on the Egyptian side of the border. As far as foreign nationals, that's another part of this. So we do know that some foreign nationals are finally being allowed to leave Gaza, and we understand that 335 foreign nationals were allowed to cross, including those 5 American NGO workers.
Okay, and what more are we hearing from Egyptian leaders as well? And could we see other players in the Arab world, Inez, get involved when it comes to taking in refugees?
Yeah, that's the big question here. So according to Reuters, Qatar is working on a deal right now to try to allow for limited evacuations, but it's unlikely that we'll
just yelling at people in the chat.
It's unlikely that Egypt will want to take in, Palestinian refugees here, probably for several reasons, but probably the most important being that they don't want to be seen as aiding the resettlement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees, because that would essentially spell the end of this dream of Palestinian statehood, which Egypt supports. And same goes for Jordan. Unlikely that Jordan would.
I think you just said the quiet part out loud just then. You kind of gave the game away.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees, because that would essentially spell the end of this dream of Palestinian statehood, which Egypt supports. And same goes for Jordan. Unlikely that.
I think that's the end goal for Israel in this. Pretty certain that's what's going on right now. Pretty sure that's ethnic cleansing. Pretty sure that's a bad thing. Pretty sure history's gonna look back on this and be real sad. Purgatorus, good evening. If you guys are just joining us, the House voted about an hour ago on a resolution to expel George Santos. It didn't go nowhere. George Santos still a congressman. There were 40, 50 Democrats joined with about half the Republicans.
that Jordan would take in any Palestinian refugees. On the Jordanian front, interesting to note that this evening the Jordan recalled its ambassador to Israel, slamming Israel for the war in Gaza, talking about the catastrophic humanitarian situation there, and talking about how this will likely cause instability for the entire region. So Israel-Jordan relations there, really fraught to say the least. And there are fears also as to what this could mean for the Israel-Egypt relationship as well.
All right, Inez de la Cuatera, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking.
I'm worried that there's not going to be any kind of Palestine going forward. Like, Israel is just claiming that land. They're going to expel all of the Palestinians, and that's going to be it. That feels like that's what their aim is, and it feels like that's the U.S. is. I wouldn't say they're like not cheering it on, but they are, tacitly being like, I guess you can go ahead and do it. We kind of wish you wouldn't, but if you need to. The crossing, the Rafah crossing, you heard them mention, is open as of today. They let a few groups of evacuees exit.
Breaking news out of Gaza, where several Americans were among the first group of injured evacuees to leave and enter Egypt through the Rafah crossing. President Biden took to social media to discuss his administration's efforts, saying, quote, "Thanks to American leadership, we secured safe passage for wounded Palestinians and some foreign nationals to exit Gaza. We expect American citizens to exit today, and we expect to see more depart over the coming days. We won't let up working to get Americans out of Gaza." The evacuations coincide with Israel ramping up its airstrikes and ground invasion in northern Gaza. Israel struck the Jabalia refugee camp for the second time in 2 days. Today, the State Department reiterated the urgent need to get Americans out of Gaza.
Americans?
There are around 400 Americans in Gaza with whom we are in communication who have expressed desire to leave. They have family members as well who have expressed a desire to leave. The total number is around 1,000 people when you count both American citizens and their family members. We are going to give them specific instructions over the next few days about where to go, when to go, how they can get out.
CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes is joining us now. Nancy, always great to see you. As we know, several Americans were able to evacuate Gaza earlier today. What else are we learning?
Meg, we've been told that a handful of Americans were able to get out today. U.S. officials won't put an exact number on it for security reasons, but they do say that the people who were able to get out through the Rafah gate today included both dual passport holders, so people who held a U.S. or some other country's passport and were most likely dual citizens, and also those, a few dozen of whom were seriously injured and who were...
They want the prime real estate next to the Mediterranean Sea. That's what it is, right? It's going to look a lot better once they come in there and bulldoze everything. It's disgusting.
Being taken to get treatment in Egypt. The White House officials that we've spoken to tell us that this is the product of days of very intense negotiations, including leaders at the very highest levels from the U.S., from Israel, from Egypt, including the President of the United States, who was on the phone this weekend with other leaders and the Secretary of State. They say this is just the start, that there are more Americans who want and need to get out, and they believe that those Americans will be able to get out over the next few days.
Well, when we were listening to the State Department briefing, he didn't want to get too detailed on the numbers, but are there any details on the number of Americans remaining in Gaza and when they may be able to leave?
So what Secretary Blinken testified to yesterday was that there are about 400 American citizens living in Gaza who want to get out. There may be more who don't want to get out, but they've identified 400 American citizens who do, and they want to get out with their family members, understandably. So that's about 1,000 people that they are trying to help get through the Rafah Gate and get safely into Egypt to connect with their family members there. They're hoping to do this as quickly as possible. Blinken said yesterday that the biggest obstacle to doing it quickly has been Hamas. And so they're describing this as a major
blame Hamas for everything.
The fact that they were able to get at least some of them out today.
Yeah, definitely significant there. Nancy, he talked to us a little bit just about how difficult these negotiations are, considering that the strikes are still going on.
Right. Well, first of all, Hamas controls Gaza, and they can control who gets out. So that's one major obstacle. Second of all, you need to keep
really
people
saying
safe,
Hamas
inside Gaza as they're trying to depart, and then on the other side, it's not a very
God, I'm hungry again.
An easy crossing into Egypt. Then you've got to coordinate with family members, and we're told that over the past 24 hours, U.S. officials were contacting family members of these Americans to let them know, hey, go to this location in Egypt. We believe we're going to be able to get your family member out. They're going to need to connect with someone on the other side. Also, the people who are getting out need to have the proper paperwork. They need to have those passports. They need to have that documentation to show that they are a foreign national or a U.S. citizen. And obviously, in a situation like this where people are being forced out of their homes, forced out of northern Gaza. Some of their homes are being destroyed. Finding that documentation is not always that easy. And then finally, you've got the challenge of the fact that historically, Egypt has been really reluctant to take any refugees in situations like this from Gaza, because what they fear is that if they allow people to flow into Egypt from Gaza during a crisis, that Israel won't allow those individuals to return to Gaza afterwards, and that Egypt will be left with a bunch of Palestinian refugees. In this case, the reason that they were willing to let some of these individuals out is because they are U.S. citizens, because they are foreign nationals. They're not planning to stay in Egypt. They're planning to connect with loved ones there and head elsewhere.
And Nancy, we just got the decision from the Federal Reserve that interest rates will be holding steady. We know that President Biden has been addressing the economy today. At the same time, we have this war that is playing.
What? How do you go from like mass genocide to interest rates are still going up? What? I like a good naan bread. You get some pita. Tortilla chips and hummus is really good. I like a garlic hummus. I like a red pepper hummus. Garlic naan. Stop it. I ate right before the stream. I made a shit ton of fries and I ate them all. Ham and Swiss sandwich. There's a divide, and it's pretty much by age here in the U.S. Let's Purgatorists. That sounds like a good idea. There's a divide in the U.S. by age over their outlook on Israel. Surprise, surprise.
College campuses rumbling with protests.
Palestine will be free!
Age appears to play a notable role in which side Americans support in the Israel-Hamas war. New Wall Street Journal Ipsos polling finding younger Americans much less supportive of Israel than older Americans. Around 40% of those polled under 30 say the U.S. has a responsibility to help Israel fight Hamas. That's well below the 73% of Americans 65 and older who feel that way. Data also shows President Biden support among younger voters as he stands firmly with Israel. Gallup reporting the president's approval rating among voters under 35 dropped 7 points in the last month alone.
The reason why despising Israel became pretty much a requirement of the American left is colleges.
The rifts among young Americans over this issue causing tense moments on and near universities, demonstrators clashing. Anti-Israel students tearing down posters of hostages taken by Hamas.
Why are you tearing that down? Why do you think this is acceptable? These people are kidnapped.
Democrats in Congress providing
kind of propaganda in the U.S.
supporting Israel, although fissures deepening as members of the Squad and other hardline progressives break with the president on this.
I have been one of President Biden's biggest supporters, but I am certainly concerned about his approach to this.
Younger voters tend to lean Democratic. So as this voting bloc grows increasingly frustrated with President Biden over supporting Israel, political experts keeping a close eye on how this will impact the 2024 presidential race. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Even she's posing in front of, like, just the White House and Israel flag. The Israeli flag. No mention of the Palestinians. That kind of subtle downplaying of the plight of the people that are actually under siege at the moment. That's a form of propaganda, and they may not even realize it. Whoever put that together, it's a battle about Israel support within the White House. We'll put that up. The graphics guy might not have been thinking that, but that's a subconscious nod to the Palestinians aren't important in all of this, and that's fucked up. The piece we just watched mentioned the violent threats on campus. A student was arrested for making anti-Semitic threats towards Pittsford and Cornell students.
Leaders in the local Jewish community are processing the news that a Cornell student who grew up in Pittsford has been arrested for making threats against the campus's Jewish students.
The Broome County Sheriff's Office released this mugshot of Patrick Dye, a junior at the university. Dye is charged with posting threats to kill or injure another using interstate communications. Officials say the 21-year-old had multiple posts online threatening to shoot up a dining hall offering kosher diets, threatening to stab or slit the throat of any Jewish man on campus, threatening to rape Jewish women at Cornell and behead Jewish babies.
Good God!
As he appeared in a federal courtroom in Syracuse today, he waived the right to bail hearing and will be held in the Broome County Jail. His next hearing is set for November 15th.
Now, those anti-Semitic threats police say Dye admitted to making, they have sent shockwaves throughout the community, prompting Jewish leaders in our area to address the topic of safety and how to process hate speech.
Natalie Kutchko joins us with.
But I feel like, I'm sorry. My apologies. But I feel like I've seen a number of school shooting perpetrators. They've looked a lot like that dude. I don't want to stereotype. But didn't the dude that shot up Virginia Tech look a lot like him and a couple others? The whole show has a content warning. There's content warnings everywhere. You can get the t-shirt. If you're watching on YouTube, I just revamped the store layout and everything so you can find things easily. I mean, cancel Justin over what I just said.
More reaction to the disturbing news today. Natalie.
Teresa, Adam, officials from the Jewish Federation of Greater Rochester acknowledge that this situation hits close to home. They also express the shock and disbelief over these remarks and say it re-emphasizes concerns of safety on any college campus. Monica Gabel with the Jewish Federation tells us she joins in that disbelief behind the alleged threats made by Patrick Dye of Pittsford. She says it underlines the continued need for students to feel safe wherever they attend school. She explains the questions an incident of this magnitude raises not only for the Jewish community, but the community at large.
I think this particular story hits home because this particular young man is from the Rochester area and specifically Pittsford, where I think we tend to think that things are okay and maybe cases of anti-Semitism or people who have hatred are less likely to be so overt about it. But it just goes to show all of us that, first of all, we don't really know who we go to school with sometimes. Maybe we don't know them well. Maybe we don't know their intentions or how they feel about people. But we also can't consider that any of our environments are 100% safe.
Meantime, we did reach out to the Pittsford Central School District.
We're watching shit that's on YouTube.
Confirmed that Dye is a graduate of Pittsford Mendon High School, also adding the district would not be commenting any further. Back to you.
A very well-covered story, too, I would assume. God damn. Yeah, they got pretty graphic. Speaking of graphic, I could hit the content warning on this one. You remember last week when we had a manhunt for the mass shooter in Maine? Apparently the cops did a fucked up job, because that's what cops do. And they are coming under fire for their response.
13 News Now is back at noon with questions being raised about how police responded to the mass shootings in Maine last week.
Some
law enforcement officials are now raising concerns about communication in addition to the missed warning signs. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the details.
New scrutiny of the police response to the Lewiston, Maine shootings that left 18 people dead. The Portland Press-Herald reports there was a 12-hour delay between when officials found suspected shooter Robert Card's vehicle and when investigators began using it for tracking and evidence. A local law enforcement official, speaking anonymously, says that slowed the manhunt. ABC News has not confirmed that official's account.
DJ Dub, we're the adults now. We're the adults now. That blows, but like, the adults need to fix it. We're the adults. We're the ones that gotta fix it. I'm not adulty enough for the adult stuff. That's the problem with society, isn't it?
The Press-Herald also says a veteran sheriff's deputy, in a now deleted Facebook post, described the flow of information between state and local law enforcement as radio silence. The deputy saying the upper echelons of the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit and command staff are utter clowns, and I wouldn't hire them to manage the morning rush at Dunkin' Donuts. The revelations coming hours after a slew of missed warning signs surrounding Robert Card came to light.
People wonder, well, why didn't you force...
Hold on. Let's hear that quote again.
Information between state and local law enforcement as radio silence. The deputy saying the upper echelons of the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit and command staff are utter clowns, and I wouldn't hire them to manage the morning rush at Dunkin' Donuts. The revelations coming hours after a slew of missed warning signs surrounding Robert Card came to light.
People wonder, well, why didn't you force that contact? Why didn't you look at him? You know, there are certain rights.
In September, the Army Reserves requested a welfare check on Card after another soldier was worried Card wanted to commit a mass shooting. And documents show in January, Card's family reported concerns about his mental health and access to firearms. Card's son saying his father thought people were calling him a pedophile, but officials are defending their response.
We looked at what was done as it aligns with our policy. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to say, is there other ways to approach these situations?
Court documents show Card's sister told police after last week's shootings that he had been delusional since a February 2023 bad breakup and had stopped taking his medication. Officials say Card's sister said he was hospitalized for mental health treatment after breaking up with his girlfriend. She says they met at the bar where one of the shootings was carried out. Andrew,
damn.
ABC News, New York.
Fuck them cops. Fuck that shooter. Speaking of shooters. It's just another day. This time we're talking about a study showing that more gunshot victims are actually dying on the scene.
5:30, a new study suggests weapons are more deadly than ever before.
And researchers believe that's why more gunshot victims are dying on the scene. ABC's Justin Finch has more.
Over the past decade, more than 300,000 people died from a firearm injury in the U.S., and the number of people not even making it to the hospital has risen. That's according to a new study published in the medical journal JAMA. Researchers reviewed data from the CDC showing the number of victims dying at the scene of a shooting increased from 51% to 56% between 1999 and 2021. Researchers suggest that the jump is likely because guns are more deadly now. Studies suggest this is partly due to larger magazine capacity and a growing use of high-caliber weapons. The study points out that locations where the firearm deaths happened were not identified well, so there could be other factors at play, such as the number of ambulances available in a given area. Researchers say more study is needed. With this Medical Minute, I'm Justin Finch, ABC News.
Remember, kids, this dystopian country What happens when you are an accused cop and you try to leave the state before your trial?
A former Plainfield police officer was in court this week accused of trying to plant fake child abuse allegations. He told the court he was not guilty.
13 Investigates reporter Sierra Putman learned the former officer also asked a judge if he could live in another state while he awaits trial.
Valentine Cousin wants to live in Florida as he awaits trial on Monday.
Wants to live in Florida. I wonder why. As you await trial of being a crooked cop. This all makes sense, doesn't it?
State while he awaits trial.
Valentine Cousin wants to live in Florida as he awaits trial. On Monday, a judge said, okay. Today, show Cousin will live in Hallandale Beach, which is a short drive from Miami. Cousin is accused of trying to get a gas station clerk to write letters accusing a different Plainfield police officer of abusing children. Cousin resigned shortly after state police told him he was under investigation. He now faces 2 charges, including felony official misconduct. The Hendricks County prosecutor has said he plans to dismiss and review more than 100 cases. The court scheduled a jury trial for February. Right now, on the 13 Investigate section of our website, you can see our initial reports when we broke this story, as well as our investigation that found this is not the first time he's been investigated for making up accusations against another officer. Sierra Putman, 13 Investigates.
Ooh. And they're gonna hire him in Florida too, won't they? Plainfield, what? Where did this actually take place? Plainfield, New Jersey? Plainfield, Illinois? I don't know. WHT H. Indiana, Plainfield, Indiana, and he's going to Florida. Okay, so this is also gonna need a content warning, because I have pre-watch Andy'd this. I didn't know what it was when I was watching it. I didn't know it was going to be such a significant story today. I just saw the footage, and I'm very morbidly curious about this shit. I have no idea the story behind it. Apparently, this is a stepfather and a stepson were having words outside of an apartment in Brooklyn. There was a manhunt for a murderer, and a murder took place. The cops apparently killed the suspect during the apprehension.
You were witnessing a march of death. Police say Jason Pass had enough of the noise and went to confront his neighbor about it. At one point, surveillance video shows the victim's wife trying to pull him away, but he pulls a pair of scissors. It was no match for a gun. The video is so disturbing, we are stopping it right when Pass allegedly pulls the trigger, killing the 47-year-old father and his 27-year-old son.
It is fucking cold-blooded. I watched the whole goddamn thing. It is insane. And his woman like shuts the door as he's trying to get away.
Right in the hallway of a building here in the Flatbush Gardens complex.
I shed tears because the breadwinner is gone. The next to stand in line is gone. Senselessly. Why?
Paulette James also lives here. She tells us over 15 years, things have changed, with neighbors going from friends to enemies.
To go kill people, kill. You can't think about nothing else. What, just to kill people? Oh my God, that is.
You should have put scissors to his fucking.
611 News has learned at least 6 311 calls were made by Pass since 2022, complaining about the noise coming from the upstairs apartment. His sister does not want to show her face on camera, but says it was more than just noise.
I'm just distraught. And it was an ongoing battle with them of them harassing my family. And the management of where we are here in Flatbush Gardens, they are aware of everything.
Neighbors agree noise and other complaints are not isolated here, but nothing can justify this. Community leaders vow to help tenants deal with the grief and the trauma, also deal with everyday concerns.
We're trying to show tenants here how to deal with issues no matter what, and to keep it away from the emotional selves and more of a responding and not a responsive self.
Meantime, a message to the gunman.
For the person who did this, you need to turn yourself in. That's the best thing you can do for the family.
We also reached out to the victim's family, but they asked us for privacy, and we are respecting that. In the meantime, if you have any information on the whereabouts of Pass, call Crime Stoppers.
Oh shit, this doesn't have the update. The shooter was killed. There's a manhunt. The update here. Hold on. Not high enough for this shit.
And wanted for allegedly killing his neighbors over a noise complaint. Police say 47-year-old Jason Pass lunged at officers with a knife when they tried to corner him, and that's when they fired. News 4's Miles Miller has the latest from Bath Beach.
Jason Pass had been the most wanted man in Brooklyn for 3 days after police say he gunned down his neighbors in a fury over noise. That all came to an end in Bath Beach, Brooklyn, just after 7 this morning. A police car equipped with a license plate reader spotted Pass's car and that he was wanted for murder.
The male jumped out of the car with a knife in his hand and took off running. The officers pursued this male down to Bay 44th.
He had a gun, we know this.
To isolate and contain this male with the knife still in his hand.
For 15 minutes, cops say they pleaded with him to drop the knife. He apparently told cops this isn't going to end well.
The male, for some unknown reason, in a full sprint, charged the officers.
He was shot 3 times in the chest and 1 time in the leg and died at NYU Langone Hospital in Brooklyn. Police started searching for Pass Sunday night after a deadly dispute at Flatbush Gardens. Police say he shot 47-year-old Vladimir Maturin and his 27-year-old stepson Chin Wah Mode. Execution style in their building's hallway. The motive? Noise complaints.
This is shocking. This is shocking. And listen, guys, we just have to live good as neighbors. Because I live in a building like what you live into, and if I have issue, I either write my neighbors a note.
In the hallway where the 2 men died, votive candles sit outside the door.
Killed his son too, and it is
no
brutal.
Answer from either family as
brutal.
both prepare to lay their loved ones to rest. And the crime scene unit still here on Bay 44th Street in Brooklyn. You can see the suspect's car still here as well.
It wasn't a young son, it was like an adult son, but a fucking insane. "27-year-old stepson." And then he goes into the apartment like right next to him. I don't know if that was his apartment. It kind of seemed like he came from downstairs. But he goes into the apartment that was like right next to them. Right after shooting 2 people. I don't know how you got it. They were just laying in the fucking hallway. It is brutal video. This one's also hard to watch. This happened not far from my hometown. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. In my time doing news for radio stations in Eastern Kentucky, I covered several incidents having to do with coal mining. This is yet another one. This is another instance, I'm sure, of a coal mining company not having things up to regulation, not investing enough money into their facilities. An entire 11-story coal plant collapsed. They're lucky only 1 person has died. 1 person still missing. They are trying to rescue 1 person.
Rick and Jennifer, this has been going on since 6:30 Tuesday night. We're told crews were there on scene at a former coal preparation plant in Martin County doing some work to prepare it for demolition. Take a look at this. WLKY News chopper just flew over the site late this afternoon. The collapse happened just off Middle Fork Wolf Creek Road. That's on the West Virginia state line. Officials on the scene.
Okay, so I take back what I was saying. I didn't have all the information earlier when I heard about this story. Apparently they were a crew there preparing it for demolition because it was so fucking old. So fair enough.
Say the structure was made of steel and concrete, which has created really very dangerous conditions for crews who are now trying to maneuver their way in to find that remaining missing person. Governor Beshear has declared a state of emergency to help get much needed resources into that area to aid in the search. Urban search and rescue crews from across the state have moved in, including 12 members of the Louisville Fire Department, along with about a dozen others from various county agencies. The heavy weight of the concrete and steel has really complicated this search.
Structural collapse is very slow and meticulous movements, right? It's not the same as fighting a fire where we go in real quick and put it out. With this, we got to make sure everything's shored up, stable, before we get in there to do any type of rescues.
But this remains, as of this hour, a rescue operation. We haven't given up hope on the second worker, and we have been joined by a lot of crews from throughout the state. We appreciate all those agencies being here.
We are told members of both individuals have been on scene there, as well as state police who will be leading the death investigation. The state's emergency management director did also confirm that other state officials are also on scene, beginning to look into what exactly caused this collapse. But he says search and rescue remains the top priority right now. Live in studio tonight, Drew Gardner, WLKY News.
Well, I mean, we're talking about what caused the collapse, and we're preparing to demolish it because it was so fucking old. I'm pretty sure I know what caused the collapse. Talking about a death investigation, pretty sure the collapse is what caused the death. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Parts of the United States got some snow. It was a snowy Halloween in the central portion of the United States, up in the mountains. Here's some video of a woman getting hit by a tree. I'm glad she wasn't hurt. Sounds like laughter. Looks like the vehicle had already been hit by a tree. Random as fucking deed. I just as I was searching through all my sources, like I saw it. I was like, oh, that would be fun. Tree falls on woman. Okay. That time of year again where I bitch about the fact that we changed the fucking clocks. We shouldn't change the clocks. I gotta think about it again. I want daylight savings time all the time. Less hours in the morning, more hours at night. Yeah. That's daylight savings time all the time. That's the way it should be. I don't like this bullshit time changing. I fucking bitch about it every year. Last year's like, they should change it more often. I think we should pick a time and stick with it. I think it should be daylight savings time, but just pick one. Pick one. I'm okay if it gets dark at 8 o'clock in the middle of summer. I'm cool with that. I like nighttime. It can be regular time. I'm down with it. Apparently, California voted to never change time, but they still have to change time. Every month a new time. That just seems crazy to me. And I mean, I'm kind of like Warlord would like that, I would assume. I don't know if I would like, because I have a hard enough time with time as it is.
Today's Why Guy question from Richard, quote, why, after the people of California voted for it, has the removal of daylight savings time still not happened, end of quote. Now some quick housekeeping for Richard and millions more. It's daylight saving time. And yes, Richard's right. California voters passed Prop 7 in 2018 by 62% to eliminate daylight saving time. We'd stay on the spring forward schedule year-round. This year, we fall back on Sunday, November 5th. Even though California
bullshit
clock switching, did I mention by 62%, the California State Senate needed to pass this by a 2/3 vote, and they haven't. It's stalled. Even if it did get passed, the federal government then needs to approve it.
Switching in and out of daylight savings time is outdated, and it's only a source of annoyance and confusion. Frankly, it's just dumb, and there's just no other way to say it.
So what's the sense of voting?
I agree with Marco Rubio.
And the state Senate not approving it. Another wasted proposition that we approve that goes nowhere. Two states that don't mess with their clocks are Arizona and Hawaii. They don't do daylight saving.
So what we have is nobody really wants to flip the clocks back, but nobody seems to be doing anything about it right now. If you have a Why Guy question, reach me at my Facebook page, Walt Gray News. You can watch more Why Guy stories at abc10.com.
Why Guy.
Why Guy.
He is definitely a white guy. I haven't seen many more that are whiter. For some reason, Robert De Niro is getting sued by his former assistant for apparently being a piece of shit to her. So how did Robert De Niro respond? By yelling at her in court.
With his former assistant who accuses him of sexual and verbal harassment. Chase Robinson filed her $12 million lawsuit yesterday. The two-time Oscar winner sued Robinson back in August for $6 million after she stopped working for his production company. Our national correspondent, Jerika Duncan, is here with more on the story. Jerika, there are big allegations on both sides. What are they saying?
Yes, there are. Good morning. De Niro is accusing her of misappropriating money. She claims the 76-year-old made sexually charged comments and often spoke to her in a demeaning way. Well, she's backing up some of those allegations with a voicemail that appears to have come from De Niro.
People don't respect him. They fear him.
Award-winning actor Robert De Niro, best known for his violent and abrasive roles in movies.
Are you stupid or what? Did you hear what I said?
Is facing accusations of verbal harassment and discrimination from a former female employee who worked for the star for more than a decade. Chase Robinson, De Niro's former assistant and vice president of production and finance at his company, Canal Productions, filed a $12 million lawsuit against the star. In it, she claims De Niro would unleash drunk tirades against her, in which he denigrated, berated, bullied, and hurled expletives.
Believe it?
How dare you disrespect me? How much you did?
The lawsuit includes a vulgar voicemail De Niro allegedly made to Robinson in 2012, calling her a spoiled brat.
And you don't answer my call? How dare you? You're about to be fired. You're history.
De Niro, who has two major films about to be released, Joker and The Irishman, filed a $6 million lawsuit against Robinson.
This is old, isn't it?
7 weeks ago, claiming she misappropriated hundreds.
Yeah, the trial's taking place. What the fuck? I got faked out again. Actor Robert De Niro shouted "Shame on you" as he testified on Tuesday in a New York courtroom, directing the comments towards his former executive assistant and vice president. So he yelled during his harassment trial at the woman he's accused of harassing. Graham Chase Robinson watched her with her lawyers while De Niro's anger built as attorney Andrew McCurdy pelted him with some tabloid-style accusations his client made about De Niro's behavior towards Robinson as she served his needs, large and small, from 2008 until 2019. The jury is considering evidence pertaining to a lawsuit De Niro filed against Robinson, in which he claimed that she stole things from him, including 5 million points that could be used for airline flights. De Niro is seeking the return of 3 years of Robinson's salary. McCurdy asked De Niro whether it was true that he sometimes urinated as he spoke with Robinson on the telephone. That's nonsense. You got all of us here for this. McCurdy told De Niro that he called Robinson bitch to her face. I was never abusive ever, the actor snapped back. We condemn Cadiro. We condemn De Niro. I was never abusive ever. The claim that he told Robinson he preferred that she scratch his back rather than using a back scratching device drew another angry rebuke from De Niro, who said it might have happened once or twice, but never was with disrespect or lewdness. Finally, he angrily looked towards Robinson and shouted, "Shame on you, Chase Robinson." Quickly, he blurted an apology in a quieter voice as he glanced toward Judge Lewis J. Lineman. The actor admitted that there were no written rules for those who worked for him because he said he relied on the rules of common sense. He said he promoted Robinson with the title of vice president of his company, Canal Productions, at her request, but he added that her duties didn't change. At times, De Niro would flatly deny something only to later admit that there might be some truth in the matter. Or truth to it in a manner different than how it was suggested. Asked if he once yelled at Robinson when she was in Europe and had failed to call and remind him of an important meeting in California, De Niro answered that he hadn't, only to quickly add, "I raised my voice. I got angry that one time. I berated her. I wasn't abusive. I was upset." "You called her a brat," McCurdy said. "I could have," De Niro answered. Sometimes De Niro sounded like he wanted to leave the witness stand. "I don't have time for this." He rejected McCurdy's accusation that he sued Robinson before she sued him because he wanted publicity. "It draws attention to me. It's the last thing I wanted to do," De Niro said. I believe it. Let's do a little more legal wrangling here. This one's a fun case. Celebrity legal wrangling. So apparently Warner Brothers put the kibosh on P. Diddy being the Joker. So Diddy was Batman for Halloween. So I'm very interested in what's going on here. Diddy became Batman for Halloween after Warner Brothers sent papers prohibiting him from being the Joker again. During an interview with Jimmy Kimmel Live, Combs detailed Warner Brothers' move. "Last year I was the Joker and I actually got a letter from the studio. I wanted to see Diddy as Joker." Is that? Oh. Yeah, that was apparently P. Diddy as the Joker. October 2022. So I actually got a letter from the studio that I can no longer be the Joker. They said that it broke their trademark, that I did it too good. I swear I have this letter. I swear to God, from Warner Brothers.
Breaking Halloween news. Last year, after I did the Black Joker, I got a bunch of emails from the studio telling me to not be the Joker anymore, that I was breaching the trademark. And so, I don't know what I'm going to be this year. But I will say to the motherfucker that took all this time, you talking about sending me this 6 full papers. I'm not even going to show the business on the papers. To tell me not to be the Joker. I want to tell you, you win. I'm not going to be the Joker this year. Just because your ass had enough time to fuck up my motherfucking Halloween. Now watch.
On Halloween, Diddy uploaded a video sifting through legal documents from the studio. It was the video we just watched. On Wednesday, the Bad Boy founder returned dressed up as the Bats. The IG clip was a fully produced mini-movie featuring Combs. Whoa, let's watch it. Where is it? I gotta go to Instagram again. Diddy gonna get us all sued.
I'm tired of me.
You go hard. When I doubt you, you definitely gotta go hard. When you fall hard. That pain gonna make you grow. The world needs you. They need you. It's time. Come on.
This is just a motherfucker stroking his ego, isn't it?
Fuck. What the fuck is going on? There's a flickering of lights in my office. Where are the security guards? Get them in here now. What the? At my fucking desk, okay? Oh, what the fuck? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay.
The Snicks like some Diddy.
No negotiations. Is that what you want? Shut the fuck up. Motherfucker. Say the strike is over. The strike is over. All right, the strike is over. Okay, I said it.
Whoa, the strike? Like, what strike? What strike are we talking about?
They say you either die
actors, the SAG strike?
or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And if that's what it takes to stand up to oppression, break the system, and stand for love,
Big moves.
I guess you could call me a villain then. The darkest night. The strike is over, baby. We did it.
Also, like, he keeps talking about the strike, but SAG asked that you not promote any studio, which he's not really promoting the studios. He is kind of kicking authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Because the studios were pissed off that he did, like, if the studios are pissed off at his Joker outfit, they're really going to be pissed off at that. You're going to get us all sued. Damn it, P. Diddy. Let's keep it with celebrities and their Halloween. Because another set of celebrities wanted to dress up for Halloween. I gotta do it on Instagram. Apparently Instagram's really popular with celebrities. This dropped on Instagram for Halloween. This is from Brittany and Jason Aldean. You might not be familiar with who Jason Aldean is, but if I tell you the song, the Try This in a Small Town. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. The actors strike isn't over, but that's what, like, the actors, the SAG-AFTRA, in solidarity with the strike, asked that you not do any characters that promoted any movies that had been struck. And P. Diddy did that. But yet he was also going against the studio, so I don't know how I feel about it. Brittany and Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean that did the Try This in a Small Town singer, country motherfucker, whose video got banned from CMT. He and his wife, who I think have a podcast. Brittany shows a lot, man. Follow Brittany on social media. Brittany shows a lot. Yeah, not Brittany Aldean, the other Brittany. The good Brittany. This was the Aldean couple's Halloween parody video.
Washington, D.C. This is the 2024 presidential debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 presidential debate live from Washington, D.C. Tonight, we will see former President Donald J. Trump debate former Vice President Joe Biden. Gentlemen, Joe, right, here we go. Does anybody know where Trump is? Is he here?
They'll claim my video.
Donald J. Trump, my first question goes to you. Now, as we all know,
Mitochondria.
we have a crisis upon us with illegal aliens crossing the border at record numbers. President Biden, when I say illegal aliens, it's people. It's not flying saucers.
You idiot. What is it with this guy? You put him in office. You put him in office. Apparently, allegedly.
UFOs are welcome. Everybody's welcome.
President Trump, what are the first steps you're willing to take if you're the next president?
For 3 years, Trump tried to build a wall. I tried to build a wall. He didn't want the wall. For 3 years, he's let people in, brought in drugs, crime.
This is painful.
Really bad dudes. Bad guys that we don't want in our country.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
What the hell's Corn Pop?
I don't know how we're doing it. I don't know how the country's doing it.
It'd be great to take these off right now.
John, you could take them off.
President Joe Biden, to you. President Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe.
Joe. Obama's here.
Obama?
There we go, we're back. All right, Joe, welcome back to the debate. The national debt has reached levels that we've never seen before. What are your plans? Why are we giving so much money?
Conservatives aren't funny.
Ice cream. Didn't take you as a chocolate guy.
This is conservative comedy.
Hundreds of trillions of dollars. What will be your policies? What would you change?
Look, Jack, not a joke. Our policy is one word. Make it rain in Ukraine.
Well, that wraps it up here at the 2024 presidential debate. Thank you guys so much, former President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden.
You elected this guy.
May God bless us all.
Just smelling, Joe. Smells like an ass whooping in 2024. You've been in there almost 3 years. You haven't learned a thing. Nothing.
Okay. It's a bunch of bull crap. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Yourselves.
Fucking. Alright, I may have taken the Halloween decorations down. The pumpkins have been put up. We're back to the rainbow colors. But still with the vestiges of Halloween. It's the day after. We got a little Halloween hangover. Here's your ghost deer.
It was in Spring Hill. Stephanie Langston has the video and also spoke to the homeowner who described the sighting as surreal.
It honestly was like such a surreal, kind of almost like mystical experience.
A ghost of the forest graced the property of Abby Kabler Tuesday morning.
All of a sudden I hear my husband go,
on Halloween!
"Babe, get out here now!" Like kind of freaking out, a little panicky. And I run out there and he goes, "There's a white deer, I swear." And we look out the window and sure enough, there he is, just kind of like right on the other side of our porch, closer to the tree line. eating away on the bushes.
Captivated by the snow white deer.
He was snapping pictures, I was taking the video.
Like a clip out of a Christmas movie.
We have to send this to the news.
His statuesque stature and muscles a spectacle to watch.
In the video, you can kind of see his red eyes for a second. You can see his pink ears. So it's so crazy. He's like true albino.
A rare occurrence, with the TWRA saying experts guesstimate only 1 in 20 to 30,000 deer become albinos. Years ago, an albino buck known as Old Caney stole the hearts of residents in Chapel Hill. A full-body mount of Old Caney was given to the town on permanent loan from the TWRA in 2022 after he was fatally...
Get those cops away from it.
I kind of did a little bit of research, and I guess our area has a really prevalent genetic lineage of albino deer. And so there's a hot spot in our area for the mutation. And then there's also supposedly another hot spot kind of closer to Kentucky. But you see more of them around here, which is interesting.
Kabler growing fond of the albino that she says has magically appeared twice on her property now, affectionately naming him Casper.
It's close to how
Casper!
Bright white, and he was here and then he was gone, so it kind of felt like Casper the friendly albino deer.
That's fucking cute. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's alright to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin.